Welcome to Real People, Real Matters. I am Diana Tulchinsky. This is my first guest, Melanie Brown.
Thank you for having me. It's very nice to be here.
And Melanie, please tell me about your undergraduate life in Knox College, Galesburg.
Undergraduate at Knox College was, it's a small liberal arts school, so I not only studied studio art, but I was able to take classes in English and math and languages, and so it was really a well-rounded education, and I get to play sports and
Did you study Japanese at all?
I did study Japanese, and I was able to study that language. I was able to do some, since it was a small school, there wasn't always the appropriate class.
Yes.
So I was able to do some independent studies and work directly with the professor, and do things. Focus on things that I wanted to. So it was really special.
Speaking of focusing, how did you come from Oklahoma to Galesburg? Like, how was that prize?
From my high school in Oklahoma, they actually had somebody who kind of recruited people to Knox, and one of my sister's friends went there, so it was on my radar, and it had the things that I wanted. I thought I was going to be a biologist, so they had a biology department that I really liked, and the fact that they offered Japanese was unusual for a school that size, and I wanted to continue my study from high school, so that's where I ended up, and I actually only applied to one school.
Oh, that is one school. Kind of that is fantastic.
Crazy now, yeah.
That is really nice. So tell me, what was so special, like at that senior level, 12th grade? Like, why did you go from microbiology toward the arts? You know, what happened that senior year?
I had, I was always kind of a closet artist. I was always looking at photographs and trying to draw what I saw, and I was always doing that, but not really showing my friends. And I finally decided to take the art class, which at my school was known for being a really challenging class, and the teacher that I had was amazing. And within the first month, I think I actually had a moment where I went running around to find my best friend to tell her that I knew what I was going to do. And so,
nice.
There was like a real definite, I could do this.
The teacher pressuring students to get scholarships, or how did he open or even say something going to the arts? How did he open it up to your family?
It was a woman, was my teacher, and she, I don't know that she really said you should go to art school or any of that, but just what she taught us was so, it was just so good. It was such a good education. It was challenging, and she, and she told us the first day, if you do everything I tell you to do, you get a C, because you need to go beyond, And
that's mediocre.
Yeah. So, and I'm still. Her name is Linda Stilley, and she is awesome, and I still keep in touch with her. But she meant a lot to me, and that was. Just taking that class and having that experience just really, it just clicked.
Speaking of family, did your family move from Massachusetts or the earlier?
We did.
Life?
We had it when I was 9 or 10. We moved from rural Massachusetts to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which you might think that Oklahoma would be the more rural place than Massachusetts, but it was the other way around. We were in the country in beautiful rolling hills. I played in the woods all the time, and then we moved to Oklahoma, which was more urban, and flat, and I found out what a block was.
Did you start the earlier life, first grade, kindergarten, with any art experience? Is it public or private schools? How was it in the East Coast?
We had an art teacher who came around to our classes. It was a really tiny school, so there was just one class per grade, and you stayed in your classroom, and the art teacher and the music teacher came to you. And I just remember it being very free form. I don't remember. I didn't have a lot of like formal.
No, it was like
art.
Montessori or type.
They did what they could, like within the lessons, and I remember being able to like having access to paints and whatnot during school, and then just when I was at home, bless her, my mother let me make huge messes and just experiment with the material, and you know that's more important than anything. It's just
Did you visit any museums or at all, like in the high school or junior high era?
When I was in high school, well, when we moved to Oklahoma, then there were some museums. There were some art museums, and I remember I think the first time I went to an art museum was probably 5th grade, and I remember really being amazed at old portraiture.
Oh, that's
and,
nice.
Yeah, that was kind of scary too, because it looked so real, and that I remember that.
Was
really
there
well.
like a voice or a counselor telling you to stay away from health sciences, or was there like anything going on? Like, why did you fade away from being,
from going
health?
into this science?
Yeah.
No, I when I went to I was always very encouraged by the biology teacher that I also had in high school. It was really amazing, and I thought, well, maybe I will be a double major.
Yeah.
And it was just trying to do both of the majors. I realized was just going to be. Didn't feel like I could do both of them correctly, and I just really went more and more towards wanting to be more and more serious about art too, and just devote all the time that I could to it.
Within the fields, like, did you want to become a college professor or just like a high school art teacher? Or what steered you into this field?
I thought that that teaching would be the way that I could, make my living. You can sell paint. I do sell paintings, but being able to teach is also a good way to stay in the field, and it also helps you learn. The more you teach someone, the more you kind of understand what you're doing, and so I always thought that I would. That I wanted to teach at the college level, but I found that I kept teaching more and more the younger kids and high school students, and I just really liked that energy and the.
When you were in Knox College, how's the environment? Were like a certain portion guaranteed to go to the graduate level, or how did the community shift from like freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, like the communities entering the fine arts, like the classes themselves?
That's a good question. There were the people who stayed with it. Was a very close-knit group because it was there weren't that many people graduating with their major in fine arts, and so and the facilities were such that every senior was able to do one 10-week term that was just open studio to get ready for your show. So so you were just being an artist for those 10 weeks and seeing how hard you could work and getting ready for your show and having crits with your peers but because it was a liberal arts school, people in other majors were really encouraged to take non-majors were really encouraged to take art classes. They in the liberal arts education, it's seen as a really important part of learning, even if you're studying math or if you're being a biologist, to take classes in the arts as well, and music and arts and writing.
Sorry, did your family support you the 4 years, or did you get a scholarship, or how did the high school give you funding?
I received funding. I received financial aid and a grant and an art scholarship, and I fell into the category of a student who was in financial need, and so
okay.
so a lot of the funding came through that way,
Oh,
as well
that was
as
nice. Yeah,
being
yeah.
a merit-based thing. There was also that. So there was some benefit
Oh, that is
to
nice. That
being
is.
at that on that scale of yeah.
And then, why did you go to graduate school? Did you know it was expensive, or what was like the influence saying that I can make it in the graduate level and I want a master's? Like, who pertained that role in your life senior year?
My professors definitely encouraged, continuing on, and I actually did an honors project,
Oh, okay.
and so I had an outside examiner, so someone, an artist not from Knox, that who came in to my final crit, and I went to go visit him, and he actually was at Stanley Lewis, and he was at the American University in Washington, D.C., which is where I ended up going. But meeting him kind of opened my eyes to, like, wow, there's so much more that I can learn, and I'd really like to study more, and I wanted to study with him, and so that kind of brought me to that specific program too.
How is the environment going from East Coast to Midwest to Washington?
And then
again,
back to East
East-
Coast
yeah,
again.
yeah.
It was a change. That was the first time I lived in more of an urban environment, and I had
How's the culture like different? The people,
so, yeah, there
treating
was
you.
there in DC. There's a real sense, or this was back in the '90s, right? So I don't know how it is now, but the political nature of the city really seemed to extend into other parts of just the general culture, even people who weren't involved in politics for
Was
for
that
their
Bush
career.
era?
That would have been when would that have been? No, that was still Clinton years.
Clinton years.
Yeah.
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 Do you have any tips for high schoolers or even undergraduate students trying to get funding, or what classes or counseling do you recommend making that choice of fine arts versus nursing?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I would say that if you want to be an artist, you need to do it because you love being an artist. That there are so many challenges with it. It's almost like a constant hustle almost, because you have to.
That's very honest.
Because you, at least in my experience, that you get these short-term jobs usually,
Yes,
and so
yes.
you teach a few classes here, and you teach a few classes here. You sell some paintings. You kind of, and even people who teach at the college level, they're going from one position to another because it might be. Like a 2-year or 3-year position, and then so you really do have to be flexible with how it is you're going to make your living.
Did your parents ever warn you about a starving artist lecture?
Oh yes, they were nervous about it, but they knew
Yes,
that I
yes.
was
Yeah.
dedicated. That it's like, well, then I'll be a starving artist.
What about an art therapist? Have you ever promoted
I
that?
had thought about that too.
No.
Yeah, and that probably would have been a good fit for me, but I just was always it was like, well, that wouldn't give me enough time to paint. I've just
you
always
like
been
that.
very, almost, what's the word?
Therapeutic?
Well, it is something I feel like
Yes.
I have to do. But I've always been very careful with carving out that time for myself.
Yeah, and some of the supplies.
To make the time to paint.
And some of the supplies are very costly.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. You can. There are lots of there are lots of, you don't have to have the best supplies to make the best art,
Yes.
we'll say. You know, you can, it helps, but.
How did you get involved in abstract expressionism?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, the place that I was coming from, my teachers were kind of coming out of that tradition. So, so I feel like a lot of the ways that I was taught how to paint came from that world. That the energy of the mark was important, and the emphasis is really put on color and color, mark making, and visual space.
Visual, yeah.
And I do remember the first time that I went to lots of museums. Like you were asking when I was in Oklahoma, the first time I went to a museum. But my father moved out to the D.C. area when I was 18, and so after I had my first art class in college, I went out to visit him, and he took a whole week off, and he took me to the Smithsonian every day,
That's
and
nice.
I looked at paintings every day, and he like. Beautiful person.
That's a good memory. That's
He
a good
just
family memory.
you know, I don't know
Yeah.
how interested he was in looking at all the stuff, but he was very patient and let me look at everything. But one of the shows was a de Kooning
Oh, wow.
retrospective, and it just blew me away. It was
Yeah.
just, it was transformative. I mean, it was,
Oh.
yeah.
I remember like Pierre Bonnard, like the French. So like he had a lot of backlash against him, and some of it was negative, and somehow he was famous. But like it was very visual, like the colors and stuff like that. The gesture drawing. Yeah, it was really nice. Can you tell me
Yeah.
more? Have you seen him in person? Or?
Yeah, there was. I was a big fan, just like finding things in books, and then when I was in D.C. at the Phillips collection, I was a guard for
Oh,
a little
wow.
while.
That's
after.
multitasking.
Yes, so another thing that another way you can kind of slip in ways to make money. But it was great because you just got to stand there and protect the paintings, but you also get to look at the paintings,
Yeah.
and they have a really good collection of Bonnards.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really got to know some of those paintings, and I got a much deeper feeling for what was going on.
It was very gesture drawing.
Yeah.
And the colors were nice. The
And they're-
facial drawings were nice.
And
yeah.
they're kind of slow to reveal. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't my favorite the first time I
He
saw
was
his
very
work.
controversial compared to his French, peers at that time. But I remember Matisse, like that type of like the female nudity and the gestures and the generalization of the figure, and it was interesting. Yeah, and then you liked Alexander Collander. He did the wire baskets and the flying.
The mobiles.
Mobiles,
and
yes,
yeah.
yes.
There's just a beautiful playfulness to his work, and it's I mean, there's so much intelligence.
Yes.
But he's also incredibly playful. It's almost like he's breathing the work. Like
Yeah.
it's just so natural for him just to make all these to make his sculptures and his paintings too. But there's just it's like a breath of air is part of the work.
He was very clever though. He went from job to job in his 20s, and he studied to be a mechanical engineer, but that didn't work out.
Right.
So it was 2 days here, 3 days there,
Yeah.
and he made art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So William de Kooning, did you like his later style or his earlier years?
I liked. I mean, I've really enjoyed
the women.
The women were the ones that I saw as an 18-year-old and was just standing there and
intimidation. That was his, the figure of intimidation.
And then just the way that the paint is put on. There would be like splatters. You could really see how he must have been moving to put it on, and it was very, very aggressive.
Yeah, it was like feminism. He was talking about that, like the teeth and the structure of the painting. And Jason Pollock did a lot of that in the 1950s.
Yeah, that energy and the
the colors. It was like visual field experiments when they did that. Speaking of which, did you ever want to go into being a college professor at that level?
I kept thinking I'll go towards that, and I'm a little bit older because I finished grad school and I was like 26, and so I wasn't quite ready. I felt like I was too young and inexperienced to be teaching people who were just a few years younger than me.
Yes.
And so I did other things, and I thought, well, I'll get back to that. But I kept making excuses why not to do it, and then I realized I don't want to do that. I guess that's just, I really like engaging with people who are not necessarily trying to become artists, but are taking an art class to find out more about it, or maybe they are going to become an artist, or I guess I like to be teaching people many different languages.
Yes.
I mean, many different languages, many different ages, and different places in their lives. That having that interaction with people who are coming to art from all different backgrounds and experience levels is really interesting to me.
Oh, so where do you teach in Lily Street?
I teach at Lil Street Lil Street is down in the Ravenswood neighborhood of Chicago, and I teach there the adult 2D department.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so drawing and painting for like total beginners, and then also I do some things I do a class called Imagine Landscapes, where so it's more abstract, more for people who have already done a lot of observational work and maybe want to try to move into doing things more out of their head, or
All right.
so kind of bridging that gap.
What are the minimum ages for adults and children? Like preschool? Do you teach preschool kids?
Yeah, I've done all the way to 18 months and up.
Wow,
So
that's nice.
so and that young of a child is really, really fun to watch make art. Let me tell you.
So how do you like the Glenview Park District, like in general? Like, have you taken classes or absorbed any of how they teach art, or like,
I have not taken any classes. I have walked through, like, they have art up on the walls from and so it looks really like a very nice program, because I've seen quite a bit of really good looking, serious looking art on the walls in the park district.
Are you sending your children to private or public schools, or how are you doing that?
My 8-year-old son goes to public school, and in Chicago.
Okay.
And so far so good.
Yes.
Yeah. They have access to art and music and dance. They started doing dance, which I thought was really interesting. But
what countries have you visited, like museums, and have you ever done that?
I have not done a lot of traveling, but I have been to Denmark. And I did go to the Louisiana. It's an art museum, and it's right on the sea.
Oh, that is nice.
And they have a sculpture garden there, and you can. It's been quite a while since I've been there, but I remember being really taken by. They have some Henry Moore sculptures, and so there's spaces that you can see through the sculpture, like, and so you can look out and see the sky and the sea. It was just such a beautiful way to see the sculpture, to have the background just be this sea and sky, and to really see kind of the negative shapes of the sculpture is really outlined with
What
that kind of
are
space.
your endeavors for your family now, and for your artwork, your studio artwork?
Well, I have now that I have 2 children, I have moved my studio away from Will Street, where it had been for many years, and so now it's around the corner from my house. So I still teach at Will Street, but I'm having more and more students at my own
Your private
studio.
residence.
So I have some private students and a couple small groups who come just to my studio. So it's been kind of simplifying things, keeping things on my block.
Thank you, Melanie, for this conversation.
Oh, thank you for having me, Diana. It's been really nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for watching Real People, Real Matters with Diana Tulchinsky. Please watch us again.